Okay, welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. This is a quick video, I hope, and it's a video response to Wee Bob. He's done another one of these community questions, just like a little while ago he did your favorite video game intros. So this is another one, but this one's movie related, and it's an odd combination. The premise is, what are your desert island movies? Now, by that, I wasn't sure entirely what Bob was referring to. Do you mean my favorite movies? Or because my favorite movie of all time, I really can't watch more than once or twice a decade. So is that what I'm taking? So I looked up Desert Island Discs, I think is what Bob has this based on. And it's more, this is in the case of Desert Island Discs, this is the soundtrack of your life as you live on a desert island. Something you can play on repeat, something you can enjoy over and over again. So I've tweaked the results of my list here for Bob with that in mind. I assume that's what we're going for here, Bob. And of course it's what the old, well, if you live on a tropical island or desert island, do you have electricity? Why don't you signal for help? No. Just these are, in this case, movies that you could watch all the time and enjoy, and they are your desert island movies. So there's about 7 of these. Let's start with the first one, which is, in a way, kind of the most controversial, sort of. Your favorite science fiction movie, or the science fiction movie you would take to live on a desert island with for the rest of your life. Now, in Bob's case, he chose Star Wars. And I'm a huge Star Wars fan, as you know. But I don't know that I would want that as my desert island movie, because I only watch it once or twice a decade. It's very rare for me to watch Star Wars. The last time was a year ago. I happened to be at my sister's place and she's got Disney Plus and it had the 4K version. I thought, this is one of those special occasions where I feel like watching Star Wars. But I don't know that I would take that as my desert island science fiction movie. But I'll put a little pin in Star Wars for now. What is my desert island science fiction movie? And I'll go a little more science fiction-y than Bob did with Star Wars. I'm going with Blade Runner, which I happen to have the boxed set of here. I've done a video about this already. This is a suitcase-like thing. It's made to look like the Void Comp machine that Deckard uses to question Rachel with. But yeah, no, the Blade Runner is, I would say it's my desert island sci-fi movie. There are lots of sci-fi movies that would qualify. This one I have watched the living heck out of. I watched this to death in the 80s, late 80s. I know the movie off by heart, and yet I could watch it over and over again. Not only, I mean, it's a visual spectacle, as anybody who's seen the movie knows, but it's also the kind of thing that, like, every time you watch it, there's another layer you can peel off. And when you've seen all there is to see, the acting that everybody does is just incredible. So it's a movie I have watched over and over and over again, and I could watch over and over and over again. So Blade Runner is going to be my science fiction choice for my desert island movie. There were many competitors, but Blade Runner won in the end. Next, Wee Bob asked for your action-adventure film, and I really struggled with this. There were a lot of contenders. Die Hard nearly made it. And I was almost going to go with Aliens, but I thought, no, that's science fiction, isn't it? Kind of. I was almost going to go with The Road Warrior, but I know Mel Gibson's kind of a little... So instead, what I chose was more of an adventure movie than an action movie. I went with Big Trouble in Little China. Love the heck out of this. Kurt Russell does an amazing job as Jack Burton. This is a glorious film. If you haven't seen it, please check it out. This is great stuff. Funny as heck. Action sequences for sure. Lots of adventure. This is actually something you could almost base an adventure module on in like D&D or Star Frontiers terms. Like it's just this set of events that's really, really fun. It's a great adventure movie. And I'm sure it's not one that a lot of other people are going to choose, so darn it, Big Trouble in Little China gets my choice. For my comedy, which is the next one on Bob's list, Had to really think about this. I was so torn. I thought, it's got to be, for me, a Monty Python. But then I started thinking it was going to be Holy Grail, and then I started thinking, but also, if it's a desert island scenario, The Big Lebowski's kind of tempting because Jeff Bridges in that film is just like, hey man, just, it's your opinion, man. Let's just all be cool with each other. And I thought that might be kind of handy on a desert island, you know, something that helps you survive, dude. Just chill out. Don't worry about stuff. But I thought, oh, still the pull of Monty Python, because that is so part of my life, that is so ingrained into me. So what I ended up with was Monty Python, The Life of Brian. This is the choice for my comedy that I would take. And I think I like Holy Grail more, but admittedly, Holy Grail's kind of, it's got some low budget problems. The ending is just sort of sudden. They didn't quite have an idea for what they were going to do with that film entirely, but Life of Brian has much more polish. It's a higher budget looking film. I think they just went to Tunisia and used all of the existing sets and road pieces and all costumes that they had for Jesus of Nazareth and just said, well, since we got all that stuff sitting out in the desert, let's film a comedy. But regardless, it is a more polished film. It is more, the fellas for the Pythons are on their A game. And for me, again with the desert island connection, the song at the end, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, that has a great theme for, we may not be here much longer, let's just enjoy ourselves. Life's a joke when you look at it. It's a really good sentiment. If you're going to be spending your last days on a desert island, that's the song you want to be listening to. And Life of Brian is just, come on, it's perfect. So Life of Brian for me, for my favorite comedy. Now the next one was a bit of an odd choice. Bob asked for a realistic or drama film. You know, Terms of Endearment type or something like that. He chose The Holdovers, which, by the way, Bob, awesome choice. I saw that on my flight back from the UK. That is a fantastic film. If anybody hasn't seen it, watch The Holdovers. But I'm not going to steal from Bob's ideas. So instead, I went with a bit of an obscure one. And I don't know how realistic this is. It is a drama. It's set in the real world. There's nothing crazy or fanciful about it. But the premise, you tell me how realistic this is. The movie is called The Two of Us. It's from, what year did this come out? Early 2000s, I think. Stars Aidan Quinn and Jared Harris as Paul McCartney and John Lennon in the late 70s. And the whole premise of the movie is that Paul McCartney goes to John in his apartment in New York, kind of to get the Beatles back together, kind of, or at least, I can't remember, there's some, I think it's just a paperwork reason for him to go and talk to John, but it's well performed. Aidan Quinn is a really good Paul McCartney, with an exception of the Liverpudlian accent. He does a decent attempt, but he channels Paul McCartney. If you can get past the accent trouble, he channels what you would think Paul McCartney is like as a person. And Jared Harris as John Lennon, fantastic. He's on his A game. They are really good. This is an odd film, hard to find, but I really recommend it. If you can get past what if Paul McCartney approached John Lennon in New York. Outside of that, it has a beautiful level of drama to it. The ending is just so poignant and makes me tear up when I think about it. It's a really good film, a good realistic drama film that I would recommend. It's a little bit of an obscure one. Now, the next one on Bob's list, I don't have physical media copy of. He asked for a bank robbery or mafia film. Now, I don't really like those types of movies. I mean, I like a good heist film like anybody else, but I don't know, Ocean's 11, was I going to go with that? It's fine, it's charming, it's good, but I don't really, that's not a desert island film for me. I don't have great respect for Ocean's 11. And I'm not into mafia stuff. I was thinking maybe, I don't know, Scarface, but that's a really good movie. But it's not one that I would be watching a lot of. So I don't really have a movie that fills that regard. However, I came up with one, so I'll just have to show the poster of it, and that is Pulp Fiction. That was a movie, I mean, it's not technically a heist film or mafia, but it's organized crime groups, people doing bad stuff. I figure that qualifies, right? It's really amazing, worthy of all of the anecdotes and praise that it got back in the day. Quentin Tarantino's had a very interesting career since. It's a very good film. I would say, it pushed a lot of envelopes for me when it was new. And I'm going to say it is the one that I would put for this choice. It's going to be Pulp Fiction as my bank robbery mafia film. Now, the next one is a bit strange. It was, for Bob, a nostalgic movie. Something that reminds you, he says, of being between the ages of 8 and 12. 9 and 12. What is the movie for you that kind of reminds you of that time and is, as soon as you hear the theme song, bing, you're right back to being that age? In his case, he chose The Goonies, which I totally get. Awesome film. But I have to be honest, if I look at the time in my life and the age that he specifies and what was the important film for you back at that time, well then, yeah, it's Star Wars. I mean, I was not going to include this because it's something I don't really watch very much, and this is the original cut, the one that came out on the box set that has all the problems and all the hairs and not in proper 4x3 or 16:9. It's got its problems, but this is the original version of the film. This would be the one that I would want. I didn't want to have this, but I just thought, no, if you're going to ask me, Bob, what reminds you, what is the nostalgic movie for you between ages 9 and 12? For me, it's Star Wars. There was nothing else that even came close back in that era, in that part of my life. So, yeah, it's going to be Star Wars. And then the final entry, he asked for something obscure, something not well known, something outside of people's knowledge area. And apologies, this has quite a few stickers on it here, and it's a bit dusty, but regardless, I'm choosing Heavy Metal. This was a science fiction cartoon from 1980 that was a Canadian production based on the adult comic book of the era, and definitely adult themes. It's got naked ladies, it's got heads getting blown off, it is violent up the yin-yang, and it is swearing and drug use and rock and roll. Like it is as punk rock, it is as heavy metal as a movie can get, and it's called Heavy Metal. Love this show. An obscure one. There were many that I was going to qualify. In fact, that Two of Us with Paul McCartney, I was thinking that would be my obscure one, but no. This one is the most, not terribly obscure for me. I listen to the heck of it. The soundtrack, as soon as I hear that soundtrack, I am transported back to 1980 immediately. So I just wanted to bring that one up as my choice of my obscure film. Heavy Metal. All right, I'm going to leave it there. There's all my selections, wee Bob. I hope you enjoy that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to more of these community questions. He says he has more movie-related stuff that he wants to bring up in future, so I'm on board. Until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.